Thank you.
We are live. Welcome to the Special Finance Committee meeting. 4 o'clock. Please stand for the pledge.
Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Both directors are here. Approval of agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? A motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. We have no public in person, nobody online, so that would complete number 2. Number 3, approval of minutes. Did you have any changes to the minutes from before?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll move the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of minutes. That brings us to item number 4, review and discussion regarding the 2023-24 draft budget.
I am going to defer this to David.
Oh, wow, okay. We can argue with him, huh?
Training him up.
Thank you. We've been training him on budget, started last year, and this year he's doing it all, so
Okay.
he's gonna handle this.
Well, thank you, Lori. We're gonna try to do this. So I'll go through the proposed budget column on the right for the total all funds. You guys want to stop me anytime? Feel free to discuss in detail.
So the yellow, you're talking about the yellow on the right?
Yes.
Okay.
Proposed budget for 23-24. So we have water consumption revenue at $4,583,535. We're gonna with a 11% increase. 6% of that is the approved rate increase. Then the meter charge is going to go up $178,048 for that same 6%. For the total water sales of $7,729,057.
Yeah, wait a minute. You have to start calling out the line numbers so that we can follow it.
Okay.
So you started with, you went straight down to line 13?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what about line 11?
You want to talk about line 11?
Yeah. Line 11, water sales construction. What does that consist of?
That is mainly, I guess, the renting of the meters, construction companies, Rainer Mount, and the fill station.
So you've got an increase for this proposed budget.
Yes.
Do you think that you're going to have the same construction?
I just doing that normal percent across all sales, but as you say that,
I don't think you're going to have the same amount of construction of homes as you did last year. So any budget that has budgeted similar to what, let's just say 100, I think that's going to be a lot lower.
We did decrease the lines that are more related to, like you're saying, the homes and the meters and such. That fill station, I don't know if you want to give me a good estimate for that too.
No, the fill station would be consistent, but construction water is construction meters at construction sites, like building homes.
Isn't most of this?
This line is both.
Right, but most of it is.
But you've got that's what, how much is it?
I don't recall. Do you remember what the monthly was for Village Spout, what the monthly's been running for Village Spout?
No, I'd be taking a guess of what we're pulling in.
I would assume that the fill station's consistent, and if it's slightly it's going up a little bit, that's fine. But if the construction meters for homes are in here, I don't think you're gonna match last year's, and you've got an increase, so that's my question to you. It might be something for you to look at.
No, definitely, that is.
So I have a question about line 11. And of course, that changes.
So we're thinking 11% across the board, pretty much for everything?
So it looks like about 200,000 of it is filler spout.
So-
Yeah, so I was just thinking about half.
So about half. So that's gonna be consistent. The rest of it is construction meters?
Yes, and we're down farther below, I'm budgeting about a 20% decrease in like what you're saying, construction and that type of usage. So if we use that 20% on the 200,000, that's $40,000 that we're going to reduce right there, roughly.
So it's my understanding with the construction meters that we have regular rentals year after year. So we have the county roads, we have fire department use here and there, and then we have like Dusty Spurs and some other equestrian groups that regularly rent the meters no matter what's going on with construction. So I feel like we can look at that and figure it out. I'm not quite sure what percentage it is of new home construction. A lot of it's regular use.
Yeah, I assumed that half of it was regular because, but if there's an increase based, I brought it up because if there's an increase based on construction meters, I don't think you're gonna see it. So if you budget, you'll have to look at that. If you budget it, I think that's gonna have to be reduced some amount.
We can look at that and reduce it by what makes sense, David.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, especially if they do raise interest rates. So
That's not helpful, by the way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
all right, that was my comment on those. I don't know if you had any other.
I was just looking at residential water sales, we expect to go up also somewhat.
We're using a 5% on that based on all the new meters that have been installed, capturing, getting a better capture of the water. Hopefully, with this year being such a wet year, there might be a slight uptick as well next year.
And then we're about halfway done with all those new meter installs.
Yes.
I thought we were a little bit more than half, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna finish it pretty quickly here.
Well, they're doing like 300 a month and we have, so we're anticipating finishing within 10 months, I think you said.
Yeah.
And, but it's actually going a little faster because we're getting materials faster. The quicker we get materials, the quicker it'll happen.
So the recording is gonna be more accurate, and any meters that are slower or not, you're seeing an uptick in production.
Accuracy.
Yes.
Accuracy.
Mhm.
Well, it could go down, but it's generally going up.
That's what we're seeing, about a 5% average when the new meters go in.
I think that's a generous, they don't want to overestimate that, but that some of them are higher than that.
All
So,
right. Thank you.
Okay, so that's through 13. Now, where did you go to next?
Well, I flew through the meter charges as well, because that's staying how it is.
Right.
So if we look at line 25, the special assessments,
25.
just doing a slight decrease there. That's due to what new meters have been installed this year.
this is a standby fee, so as new meters aren't, and it's only on properties that don't have a meter.
Right.
So when a meter's installed, that standby goes away.
Well, if a meter goes in, it goes out 660 feet, right? That's what you're talking about?
If a meter's installed on a property that has standby right now, based on our requirements
Right.
within 660 feet
Yeah.
of the main line, if it's receiving standby right now and it has a meter installation, the standby goes away.
Right, but if it extends the service out, then the 660 gets pushed out too.
Yes. If there's a main line extension, yes, that happens.
So is the standby for vacant land when a meter is installed?
When a meter's installed, there's no standby. If there's standby on that property, the standby goes away for that because the meter's there now and the standby is.
Oh, so you're paying the monthly.
Right.
Right.
So
But
if
if a main line
it's,
extension-
if a property is within 660 feet of a service line, a main line that can have service, we charge a fee. But if the lines go out and there's meters that are put in, that extends it out, then that would have additional lots added to that.
Right, if there's mainline extensions involved, then that does potentially add additional
So I assume what staff looks at on a yearly basis is what meters went in, where, and whether lines need to be extended and added to the system.
Right.
Properties added to the system.
If there were main lines added, yes.
I mean, well, if you've got 3 meters, there's really no change. But if you've got 100 or 120 meters, I assume engineering staff is looking at where the current lines are and whether we need to add additional lines.
We don't add lines unless somebody comes in and wants a service, and then at that point, they would pay for the mainline extension. And they would be reimbursed by people who might want to.
I'll have to bring this up to engineering. They need to be looking.
Yeah, we don't pay for those lines in advance. That's not part of our connection fee costs.
So they just get reimbursed once they put the line in?
Well,
Line extension.
they pay for it, and if there's other properties that can attach to it, then they would be reimbursed by those people attaching to it.
I know we've had this discussion because one of the board members is a realtor, but
Yeah,
pushing out extensions
right now ours,
might be something to look at because
right now,
our budget is a buster,
yeah, but we don't really have the budget to, for those kind of infrastructure projects, but that's something to think about in future, rate studies, if that's something that the board wishes to pursue.
I would think, yeah. I'll have to bring it up in engineering. Okay. So that's line 25, right?
Yes. Line 28 for the park and rec fee, we're going to assume a budget increase of 10% to bring the total to $20,027.
We recently had an increase in fees, as you may recall, so. We're hoping there'll be more available services for people as well.
Yeah.
For line 33, for total of other services income, we're going to do $305,031 for an increase of 14.4%, which is because, again, we just had an increase to our disconnection fees.
Right.
So that brings line 35, the gross profit for enterprise and government, to $8,337,579 with an increase of 8.7%. We go down to water purchases. The total for water purchases is $25,608 with an increase of 6.8% due to increases from MWA.
Keeping that to a minimum.
Brian.
Yeah, 450,000 the first year we started.
So this is for the admin and bio fee.
Oh, this isn't water?
Yeah, we don't have any water, in here. We don't expect to have to purchase additional water this year.
You've got 5,000,
That's for,
that's AVW.
yeah.
That's in case, that's because we do have to pump 14 a couple of times a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
For Antelope Valley.
Okay.
And I do want to point out, see on line 36, under the notes, we talk about the savings that we have line 37 of $1.1 million because of the water rights that we purchased.
Well noted.
Cost avoidance.
No, that's why we spent a lot of money.
So,
Okay, now we're on to the fun stuff.
Yeah. So moving on to some expenses. For line 54 for total salaries and benefits. We're gonna budget $4,141,194. The total increase of 14.3%.
Yeah, there's something that's got to break here. I don't know whether you looked at that and thought about it or not.
Not really.
Okay, we've got it's basically 15% increase the last 2 years. If you look at the previous one.
And that was,
And I think that, again, well, inflation and all this stuff, we raised an additional staff, one additional staff proposed.
two.
So we added one new staff member this budget year, which has increased it. And then we are budgeting for one new staff member next budget year event that it's necessary. And then of course CPI and everything else. And of course, when CPI goes up with wages, it goes up with insurance, everything.
The overall cost, yeah. So I think that we need to do something about overtime. I think overtime costs, staff needs to figure out a way to reduce that. I would prefer not to do what you're doing here. That's my opinion.
The overtime that's in here is for the field primarily. The only overtime we
It
have,
needs to be cut back.
those are for breaks and mainline emergencies. I don't know how they can cut that.
They're gonna, well, you can't go up 15% with overtime also, and 15% with every, this is just, I understand,
Right.
but
We have
Gonna have to figure something else out.
on standby. And then the only overtime we have, we don't really, we have overtime for meetings, obviously. And we have overtime we really have very little overtime in the office.
I understand that it's mostly field,
Yeah.
but something's gotta break. You can't go up 15% a year.
So, yeah.
The overall
I know, yeah.
budget.
We can bring a breakdown of standby and call outs and stuff like that, kind of what we've experienced so far this year.
That's fine,
See if
because
there's a way to look.
Because I went through all these items, vacations, miscellaneous sick pay, there's not much you can do with that.
Right.
And the only item that I saw, which continues to increase also, is overtime. And
Yeah, and we've also had an extraordinary increase in workers' comp. We had a few workers' comp cases in our 3-year look-back period that have finally made it onto the books. We are going to be shopping carriers just to see if we can get a more competitive rate, because that did go up substantially, 72%.
7%.
yeah, but 87% it went up.
Yeah, so we were in the way workers' comp works is they do a 3-year look back. And so last year, our 3-year look back didn't report any open workers' comp cases. And now our 3-year look back shows 2.
It's like an experience modification factor.
And then that affects the overall rate.
And in recent years, we've actually been like, it's 100, say it's 100% or whatever. And then we get, if we have less claims, it might be 87% that we are charged. So it's actually a discount. If we have claims, it goes above the 100% ratio, which is an additional charge to us.
Also, this was just the first initial estimate from SDRMA. And so they're going to give us the final rate amount anytime now. And they're looking at doing a disbursement, a longevity disbursement, which could bring that cost down.
I still think you need to, I mean, I saw that and I saw the increase. I assumed it was because that's almost out of your control because we have to have it. So the only thing that I saw that is actually that we have any control of that I can see in here is overtime.
And that's gonna be a tough one if it is after hours, emergencies and field overtime.
Well,
Yeah, we don't plan any repairs and maintenance after hours.
I understand that.
But Sean may have some ideas on how to reduce that.
So the budget is a conceptual thing based on history. It doesn't mean that it can't be cut and that if something comes up during the year, adjustments can be made. So I at least, as one director, would like something to give on this 15% increase. So
We can have them look at it and see what they can.
it's not sustainable.
Yeah. It just seems like if it is emergencies and field staff, it's gonna be difficult to deal with to drop it down.
I understand that, I know.
The more meters you put in the ground, the more pipe you have in the ground, the more overtime you're gonna end up with eventually.
Okay. Just pretty big.
Okay, then we can go to the next page. Review the total board compensation. We're doing some slight increases there, relating to new members and some possible training, more meetings for the new members. So we're gonna budget $115,750 for a 10.2% increase. For professional fees, let's see, where's the, line 67 for outside service. We have a decrease of 47%, due to some one-time services in the current year we're in, 22-23. And then that brings the total on line 70 down to 455,662 for an overall decrease of 17.7%.
So that takes into account construction, all the construction that we're going to be doing.
So I was looking at payroll.
I still got you going on that. Line 70 is quite a bit of a decrease, and I just was wondering, we're going to have construction, and that's a lot of that is consulting and stuff, and so that's all factored.
The construction consulting will be in the job, and that's part of our CIP stuff.
Okay, yeah, so it's not really part of the.
Yeah, this is just general ongoing operations costs.
Okay.
Back on line 67 and the reduction there, what is home field mitigation?
That last year we had,
The home field is down at the dairy.
we had that consultant providing us with information, what was his name?
Bakay.
Yeah, Hassan Bakay.
The ex-water board guy.
Yeah,
Lahana
he was-
guy.
he was consulting with us on the water quality out there.
We were trying to figure if we could sue Aerochem.
That's enough said, all right. Okay.
And we don't anticipate that expense this year. He did the analysis that we needed for that project, so, or for that item.
So if we're moving on to now the big chunk of service and supplies, we can look at line 72 advertising. It's going up to 32,200 due to the increased advertising for the parks and solid waste projects and activities.
Yeah, most of that increases in governmental funds, not water.
there going to be anything related to solid waste as far as increased advertising for that?
Yeah, that's what's in this budget. Yeah, that's why it went up so much.
And then going down to line 78 for equipment rental, we're gonna have a $2,000 decrease in that line. I'm sorry, increase going into next year. We have it because we did not use. They did not end up using the rental equipment in this year. So our insurance for line 80 is going up to $193,160. And vehicle insurance is going up to $47,540. There's a proposed, the letter they proposed, their increase was 17%.
Again, we'll be shopping all of our property, workers' comp, and other insurance policies.
Which we do every couple of years as a matter of practice. Kim's really good about. David, do you want to touch base a little bit on some of the fact that some of these costs have increased so much over the past 5 years? How these basically costs that we can't control have gone up, like the fuel costs.
Yeah, like you mentioned, to our labor, we've had the COLA increases, and everywhere has had the 10 to 15%. They're hitting with 10 to 15% increase every year on the cost that we're receiving from people. So it's hard to keep up with that. But that's the trend that we're seeing is every year we're going to get you with the 10, 15%, and if not, then we're going to catch up the next year with a big chunk.
At 6% inflation rate, I can see that. I mean, it's got to go up.
Yeah,
it's going to go up across the board. Yeah.
Well, everything's like really doubled in 5 years. The costs have actually doubled in 5 years on some of these things, on some of these significant costs of ours. Fuel's a good example.
Well, yeah, we were looking at everything over the last 4 years, and everything's up over 40% in the last 4 years, and it's just closer to 50.
Fuel's probably up almost 80.
Yeah, I think that was up 100%, wasn't it, David? Fuel
yeah, and definitely we saw that big increase last year.
It's basically doubled over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But since in the past 5 years, we've had a lot of different things happening. Everything that happened during the pandemic and all those things that kind of impacted us in different ways, and the costs between 17, 18, and now it's just shocking how much these things have gone up.
Well, when they talk about a 6% inflation, that's on computers and TVs and things. Yeah. Real inflation is like double.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's year over year.
And it's inflating on. It's like compounding.
It is, and we know how much the cost for us to build a new well has gone up, and anything that we're doing, repair and maintenance, is just it's going through the roof. The costs are just absolutely outrageous, and we don't have a choice about it. There's nothing we can do about that. We shop around and we get the best prices we can possibly get. But everybody's doing the same thing.
I understand, and I understand. That's why when I talked about the salary things going up 15%, I realized. I mean, people, the cost of living was 8% and stuff, and that include. I mean, everything, insurance and medical and all that's going up. You just have to start looking at ways. And the only budget in that line item in that budget I could see is overtime, and I don't know whether it can or not, but.
It'd be nice to assume that maybe it won't be quite so much.
Something's got to give somewhere eventually. So, I mean, we're at 6%.
And that's kind of what we've been going through with Sean and with Kim and all of the departments. Where can we reasonably cut back? What can we do? Everything that we're getting now has got to be on a need basis, not a want basis. I mean, and generally that's how we operate anyway. But I mean, it has got to be an extreme need for us to be able to purchase it at this point.
Well, you know what? I understand that, but you better think about buying up like I talked a year and a half ago in the engineering committee, because I think inflation is going to go up again because the Fed's printing money. And it's a devalue. It's not really, inflation is simply devaluing of the dollar. And they're printing more money now to sustain the banks. And that's going to create a devaluing dollar. So the cost of things are going to go up again.
Absolutely.
I've just, I talked about it a year and a half and it hit. It's going to hit again.
Yeah.
You talk about the value of things, and that's what we've been, Sean pointed out the other day, the cost of a hydrant that he's having to purchase is, I don't even, Laura, you might remember it, because we wrote it down. He was saying it was, it's up to $5,000 now, and just
It
3
was like $700 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and it went up to $1,200. Right now it's $4,000. It's going up to $5,000 now. I mean, that's crazy, huge price change.
Yes, it's inflation is the cruelest of taxes because it's not a actual tax. It's just your dollar doesn't go as far. So, and I think it's going to keep going here. It's not going to subside for a while, but.
Well,
the last CPI measurement I took in as of January was 7.3 year over year, and then the year before we were at 10. So
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, David. I didn't
no, that's okay. We were down on fuel costs, line 82. So we had a huge increase last year, and we're only going to budget a 5% increase this year, being that the fuel cost for most of the year was a little over $5, and then it's come back down. So
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't go up too much more than the 550. If we go down to line 87, the repair and maintenance budget. We're budgeting in water the $787,423, and from that we had to remove, I think it's $475,000 from the original CIP 10-year plan that was brought to the board a month prior. Just to be able to, like we were talking about, cut costs and try to make this thing work.
balance the budget.
So
yeah, it's good to see a minus on something. Although it's on repair.
But as you know, that we're just kicking it kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
You know? So next year we're going to have to do.
Yes.
For example, one of the big things was the tank costs, right, David? The tank for this upcoming year, Sean's going to schedule it so it actually ends up in the following year.
oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
And this year would be the normal $50,000.
The tank maintenance, we're gonna do the 48,000 this year and push off the large payment of 267,000 to the next budget year.
And that was the tank recoatings or something that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it was a recoding. Yeah.
But, again, we're just pushing it off another year. We're going to have to address how to pay for that.
And next year it'll be 300, not 257.
I think we're locked in on those prices with them, fortunately. So
Yeah.
we have a contract on that, so I think we're good.
So hopefully we'll do okay in that line, because we're talking about, a lot of that line is well repairs, takes up a big chunk, and
Yes.
hopefully we don't have more
If
than
we
one.
don't have well breakdowns with the new well getting online, that should help.
That should help.
An example of that is last year we ended up budgeting for,
One.
it started off as 3 well repairs, and then he narrowed it down to 1 well repair for last year, the year we're in right now. And we ended up doing one planned one, and then 2 emergency repairs. because even though we had planned them, but when you have emergency repairs, they're often more expensive than planned repairs.
Yeah, they
And
are.
so it ends up costing us more money to do that.
That's hopefully with the new well, we'll have a bigger space in which if a well goes down, it doesn't need to be repaired
Immediately.
tomorrow.
As emergency,
So,
so it won't be quite as costly.
yes, it can be just scheduled in.
There you go. That'll eliminate some overtime.
Also, that eliminates some overtime. Also, not working all the wells, the pumps as hard
Yeah,
could help, so.
with electricity, you know.
So line 90, vehicle maintenance, we're going to budget a decrease of 5.3% down to 42,000. And that's related to keeping up on the vehicles, the new rotation of vehicles coming in, and that's just, we're seeing a little bit of decrease in cost. Line 93, we have programs going up to $86,930. That's normal activity in parks picking up, plus more solid waste programs. We have a 997, another postage increase. They increased it 5%, another 3 cents recently. And that brings the total for total service and supplies to $2 million, $4,739, for an overall decrease of 6.3%. If we move on down to the utility section, we have line 103. Now this is budgeted at a 9% increase for Edison and the utility cost. Sean just provided an update in which it's only going to be 4%. So that is an additional, we can save $75,000 hopefully right there from budgeted. These solar credits will budget similar to this current year we're in. Hopefully things are working better and we're on a consistent trend with those. So for that total section, line 106, we have total expense of $1,142,067 for an overall increase of 13.8, but like I just said, it should go down to probably around 5% increase.
That's reasonable.
Yep.
It's helpful.
Line 110 for depreciation, that has a decrease.
But wait, before we go from there, I did want to note that our electricity costs in the last 5 years have gone up almost 75%. While it might not be going up that much this year, over the past 5 years, it's gone up 75%.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the bottom line and this budget, this is impacting us dramatically, yeah.
Since I wasn't around when the solar project ended, when electricity rates go, do our credits to Edison also go up?
That has happened in prior years, so that's why our credits are a little higher than they used to be, yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
it took a 75% increase for that to get into the black and the red.
But hey, that's crazy.
Yeah, we all know that Edison and the electricity is one of our main costs. And we all have, we see that at our homes. That's been up. They're doing their increases way above COLA, trying to catch up. So like she said, 75%, and we see that all our bills went up 100% over the last couple of years.
I think these types of things, when we have a budget workshop, where they're supposed to be public and stuff. I think those need to be highlighted, and maybe you can make some graphs showing the increased cost and things like electricity and gasoline in the cost of the district and have that as, I mean, that wouldn't take, you've got all the data, all you gotta do is plug it in. It's in Excel.
Yeah.
And so you just have a spreadsheet, you just have a graph showing the increase.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to say, well, it's gone up from, 40,000 to 90,000, but to show a graph is.
Especially when you're looking at a 5-year, the last 5 years, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
What's happened.
And you can go back 10 years and show it, just go.
So we can do that for the upcoming.
If you do it for fuel, if you do it for electricity, if you do it for, I don't know, maybe insurance.
The big tickets.
2 or 3 of those things,
Yeah.
just to show the charts going straight up.
Kind of the big things we have no control over.
Yes, yes. So that we're not burned at the stake.
No, that's a great idea, actually, to educate people.
Yeah.
And I think, we've all known that this is happening, but, when you see that.
Yeah, to see it on paper and to see
Yeah.
the actual increases, yeah, it's
And to see,
shocking.
And
it's
it's like we
really.
said, it went up 8% 2 years ago. Now it's gone up another 7%. But that 7% is a lot more than the 8% of the previous year.
Right.
Because it's compounded on that 8, yes. Let's see.
I think we're on line 110 for depreciation. That is decreasing by $109,000. So 5% decrease to bring the total for depreciation. That total line for the year will be $1,879,381. So our total expenses for the district are $9,764,403 with an increase in expenses of 3.5% related, as we've been talking about, Edison, insurance, and COLA.
Before we move on, the one thing we didn't really touch on was, when we were talking about revenues, is the fact that our revenues this year, the actual revenues were considerably less than what we budgeted, due in part because of the weather. Consumption's gone down quite a bit, and if you look, go back to page, or go back to line 13. And if you look over on the left side under enterprise funds, you can see that we budgeted $4.8 million for consumption, and we're coming in at $4.1 million. That's a significant decrease. And it has to do with some of the pot farms going away, as well as.
I was hoping that servicing the high school would mitigate some of that, but not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the schools only had a slight increase to the overall schools.
So,
I think they've been cutting back.
there was a big, well, it doesn't look like we're going over, up much over the current year, estimated year ends. The amount of money that we budgeted to receive is so much less than or so much more than we actually got.
Maybe we should have thought about that previously.
With the hammer strike thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because see, if you look at 21, 22, it's actual is higher, right? But it's not dramatically higher. It's a small percent higher. The actual for
The actual year,
21, 22, 23 is actually a little higher than the actual is a little higher.
Than the budgeted.
So it's going up, and that's probably the 6% increase.
Right.
And so you'd assume that it's gonna go up another couple $100,000.
Well, it probably didn't go up quite the 6% because we had a wet year. So that made it not quite get to the 6% increase.
Right. Well,
If you're comparing actual this year to 21-22 budget.
yeah, it didn't go up 6%, no.
But yeah, so that impacted our bottom line significantly. So just want to make you aware of that so that as we move along, when we get to that point.
And expenditures year to date, we're tracking 22, 23 at where we should be.
Expenditures are a little higher because of the things that we were just talking about.
I imagine it's higher by 6 or 8%.
Okay, we budgeted $8.3 million for total expenses and we're coming in at 8.6. Part of that was the 2 wells that we talked about that we had to repair, that we do budget for. And it's probably the most significant part.
I think that's all.
Insurance is higher.
Insurance, yeah, all the things are higher than we budgeted, all the big things.
That's $300,000 just for those 2 wells. That pretty much covers all of it.
And, if you look at utilities, the budget was 1.3 million and we're coming in at 1.4.
Which is about a 8% increase or 7% increase, yeah.
So,
I
think you can
so the revenues are a lot
In
less.
general, you can just figure that whatever the cost was, it's gonna be 10% higher in a year, roughly.
So how do we pay for that?
I don't know.
That's the problem that we're running into is how do we pay for that?
Revenues are stagnant and expenditures are going up.
Well, the one thing that has been going up is the taxes from ad valorem taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, and you mentioned tier 3, and that was the other thing too, going back to, in the revenue line, 5 and 6. So we created tier 3, and part of tier 3 is to pay for water that we have to
Purchase.
or either to run well 14 or to import it from somewhere else because we were having production problems because of all those grows that were happening. Well, we didn't end up having to use well 14. And so that money has to go and sit in a reserve account basically until we can use it for that purpose. We can't use it for other things because it's designated specifically for that purpose. So that money, that 339,000 we're estimating for next year.
So that.
Well, it can build up until our free production allowance is met, and then there'll be a pool to pay for purchases from Mojave.
Exactly. It'll
I mean,
eventually,
that will be used in a couple of years.
but it doesn't help offset our existing.
But it makes the bigger revenue gap in our current.
And that's what I'm saying, we can only use it like if we end up having.
To repay the basin cost if we overpump.
Right, or, because at some point we're gonna have to start doing that as, because the ramp down keeps happening.
Right.
And then, but if we have to use well 14 for some reason, we'll use that money to pay for that. Because everything we.
But it doesn't help the existing budget. It helps 2 or 3 years from now. See,
It doesn't help our
we
operation.
kind of designed it as a pool of money, knowing that at some point in the next couple of years, we're either going to have to look at the cost relationship between purchasing more rights in order to keep our free production, or starting to just purchase water from Mojave. So it's reaching that point in the next couple of years.
So while that is in our operation revenue, it's not,
Not applicable.
it can't be used this year for any operational expenses. So,
So if we remove that, like we were talking earlier, that reduces our current proposed budget to 4.240. 4,240,000 for the revenues. So now you're only looking at, you were talking about kind of a 6% year over year, but that's kind of only a 6% increase to cover 2 years. And so we didn't even get our full 6% increase in revenues.
Right.
So, we're behind on that.
Okay, carry on, David.
Thank you, Lori.
So we're on page 7, property tax.
Yes.
So
So that goes up.
we're
Estimating it.
It does, but it's not for,
Yeah, for the government fund, yes, that goes up a slight, 5%,
Yep.
based on counties' numbers to 1.6. And then we're doing, as the board directed, decreasing the amount transferred to enterprise by the 10%. I think it's the $52,000. So the amount transferred this year is going to be $104,000.
So the goal is to get each fund to pay for itself? Is that where we're headed?
That's where we were trying to head.
yeah.
That was like our 5-year plan that kept going every 5 years. We had to redo it.
It ended up being
But
50
believe
years.
me, the gap in the enterprise fund has been reduced dramatically. It was huge. It took almost all the ad valorem taxes, and now it takes very little now.
I mean, it makes sense, and I'm glad we're headed in that direction.
Because the operations should be self-sustaining.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And that was the determination by the board, and that was kind of the goal with this. So in 2 more years, it'll be down to zero transfer of taxes. So.
Yeah, you're talking about operational. So line 114 for the net operational income, we have the enterprise fund at a negative $182,083. But if we remove that reserve for the portion of the tier 3 revenue of $340,000, that gets us closer to $520,000 net loss in enterprise versus, and then for the operational income.
Basically $500,000
Yes.
in the hole.
For line 80, nope, sorry, wrong number. 133. We're budgeting $206,107, which is an 11% increase, and that's tied to the rate increase and the consumption. That's the late penalties. For solid waste,
We're not increasing the penalty cost. It's just that because the rates are going up, the penalties are a percentage of a balance, and the balances will be going up because of the increase. So that's how that happens.
the solid waste franchise fees we're budgeting a 0% increase, so $349,159, and that was.
Yeah, there's just too many unknown variables at this point, and that's why you'll see in the board meeting tomorrow night that there's been a stay of certain rates at this time until we can kind of see what participation actually looks like and do a full accounting audit to come up with a reasonable cost for service, and we'll have a better idea of the franchise fees.
That's a great baseline right there, though, if we keep it where it is.
Yep.
It's a lot of balls in the air now.
For line 140 for meter installation, we're budgeting a 20% decrease in new meter sales. And that's tied into line 142 as well for the connection fee, but that has a 10% increase due to assumes a possible rate increase.
Yeah, the engineering committee was discussing the connection fees. Those have never been increased even by CPI. And so that's going to be coming before the board shortly, before this new budget year, I would think. to discuss an increase in connection fees.
What are connection fees, do you know?
So when you want to connect to our system, so what we call it buying a meter, it's about
It's $8,000.
$8,000, and
It needs to go way up.
yeah, and we've never increased even the CPI component of that. And so we're going to be bringing that with a rate schedule to the board.
We're way behind on that one, I think.
Yeah, if we did a rate study, I'm sure we'd show that we're way behind.
Yeah, Habib has been working on the that study for us. So he was authorized to do that. Kind of put on hold for a minute, and now he's back to working on it.
I think that brings us to line 145 for our interest income. We're going to budget that at $950,000, and that's due to being able to lock in a majority of the funds at 4.5%. Do a lot of the things we did last year. But being this recent activity in the last month with interest rates, not sure on the rest of we have $6 million that's sitting in a variable interest rate, so not sure how that's going to move. So just want to be a little conservative there. Where are we at?
It's up. That's good.
Yeah, it's.
And that we're estimating we'll pay for the lease on the building that we took out. That was kind of what.
Yeah, if we relate that to
We'll pay for
the
that and more.
Right.
the enterprise portion being $614,000 and the total loan payment for the Civic Center is $467,000 for principal and interest. So that should be that's good for this year.
Yeah. Yep.
What line was I reading at? Oh, the property rental income has a decrease of 19.6%, down to $224,000 for the year due to the property next door. That lease will be expiring with them, and hopefully we'll be breaking ground on that soon. So. So total non-operational income has an increase of 3.2% for a total of $4,790,783. Line 160, our interest expense is going up 38% to $512,000, and that is related to the new Civic Center lease. The loan administration fee will go down. What's that? Almost $40,000 due to the one-time fee we had for doing the loan. $40,000 one-time fee. There's the line 164, the net increase decrease in fair value. That was an entry made at year end with all of our money invested in LAIF. We no longer have the funds over there, so we will not be making that entry. So that's just kind of a true up of, well, you'll see that in the estimated year end for 22-23 is a true up of that. So our line 167, our net non-operational income is $3,406,517. With the enterprise fund coming in at $925,189. Move to 168, the enterprise net income of $743,106, and the total of $1,979,692 is an increase of 5.9%. We add back depreciation and the payments on the loan. We get a total net income after depreciation and principal for the enterprise of $624,000. $727, and total for all funds at $1,898,000 for a decrease of 6.8%. Now the line 172, that is the transfer of reserves we mentioned a little bit earlier on the portion of Tier 3 revenues, which is the $340,000, which we need to move to a reserve account. And we also have a portion of the meter connection fees. Half of that is also set aside for future water rights and purchases for people connected to the system. So that's another, I think that comes in around 200 or so. What's that? Or 340 minus the 520. So yeah, so that's the $210,000 that makes up the $559,000, which will go into a reserve. But with that number, to bring our net income in the enterprise to $65,109, and the capital purchase of one truck for the field brings our net income to $109, and that is not allowing us to make the repayment to reserves as we've been trying to do over the last few years.
If you look on line 186 on the very far right column, that $558,200 is the amount we're supposed to be repaying back to reserves for the money that was borrowed for water rates.
Mhm.
We're not able to repay that to ourselves this year. And actually, we're not going to be able to repay it to ourselves in the current fiscal year either. I'm not sure exactly how much we're not going to be able to pay, but we're working on those figures right now. Because we can only transfer what the excess, the available excess, not excess, but the available is. And as we just pointed out, our revenues significantly less than we anticipated, and our expenses are more. So that's impacting our ability to pay ourselves for those loans.
And that amount is about the difference in the reduced revenues and the increased costs. It's about $500,000 so. For this coming year.
That's, yeah, exactly.
So did we borrow the 3.2 to purchase the water rights? We did.
From ourselves.
From ourselves, okay. All right.
So
So our goal was to repay ourselves.
Yeah, we had quite a bit of money when they took it from the county, and we used that to get, we looked at what the amount of money was going out, and we were spending, like I said, $500,000 almost just Mojave for water. So we went, this is crazy. So we went and spent $10 million to get the plus, and we did it twice. We did the dairy plus another water, another.
It was $10 million for the first round.
Yeah.
We took out a $7.5 million loan, which is on here.
Yeah.
Line 179, you see, the 2012
Yep.
water. And then we took out the second one.
For 2014 or whatever it was, we bought another a couple of thousand acre feet. So, but it's saved us millions, about $1 million a year really now. So
It'll save us more and more every year.
yeah, it has been saving us.
It did save us, we still have to repay our reserves.
So we decided, well, we'll try to repay some of those reserves. We created a schedule, and you know, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Right, the problem is that of course, we use reserves to pay for CIP stuff, and this helps us put that money back, and we're not, so we're kind of running our reserves down, we can't pay ourselves. So, at some point, you know, it's a problem, we can't keep going this way, we have to.
If you have to drill a well, you have to spend the money. So,
Right. So the problem is that we have to either, so what do we do about the budget? Well, there's three options. We either increase rates, or we reduce expenses, or we eliminate services. Those are the three ways that we can maintain our budget.
Not do capital improvements.
Very nice, that's our house. So, even like with right now, most of our capital improvements are with the Chromium 6 projects, okay? But the problem with that is that we're spending the money before we earn it. And so we may have to kind of look at that, and we're going to be bringing that back to the board anyway to review, because we talked about that during the CIP process. And we're going to review where we're at, what we spent, what we still need to collect, and what we're going to ultimately need to collect to be able to do the remaining items in that project. And so we may need to look at waiting until we get the money to actually do some of those projects.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's part of it. But in the meantime, we still have our operational budget that we need to balance. We probably need to talk about, we got approval from the board to, when we did the third tier rate study. No,
Sorry. When we, I'm sorry, when we did the rate study and added the third tier, the board wanted us to bring it back, have it reviewed after a year, which we brought that back to the board, and he was going to do a full study for us, and the board we kind of determined that we were just going to kind of do a minor
Right.
a reduced study on it. But based on what we're looking at here, I would have to recommend that we move forward with a full study, because you can see what's happening to our budget, and we managed to get it this year, but we're going to be in real trouble next year, and we're already not paying ourselves back for the reserve loans. So if you could kind of think about that a little bit,
Definitely.
and we can talk a little bit more about moving forward with the full. The board already approved that full rate study, and it may behoove us to do that right now.
Well, because we had
considering-
just done a rate study the year before, I think, and so
right, and at that point, I don't think when that was done that some of these increases had hit home as hard as
had
they.
taken effect. No, probably not.
And so I think that the reality of what we're looking at right now needs to be readdressed.
Going back to the Chrome 6 mitigation fund, I thought we were okay there, and that operationally we had come up with some different methods of dealing with it that were going to reduce expenditures and costs.
We originally that was going to be a $17 million project.
It's less than half of what that was expected to be based on the some of the profiling and adjustments they've been able to do, and different mitigation in that project. And we'll be bringing that back to the board for a full review and to talk about the remaining items and to see what we've collected versus what we've
Well,
spent.
this well is actually part of that mitigation,
Yes.
so.
But we
Now,
collected
this tank won't be, but the well and pipeline is, we were gonna hook up the dairy. It was 19 million dollars, and now it's down to 4 to 5 million, so. But we'll have to review
The well was
that.
a chunk of the 4 or 5?
Huh?
The well was a chunk of that 4 or 5?
Yes.
Piece of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well rehabs, which we've probably spent $1 million on at this point, and a new well there with the
And
pipeline.
there was the initial costs that when we did the whole project going in,
Right.
there was
Yeah, we spent
a
a couple
substantial-
$100,000 on engineering to figure out what we can do, so.
and the consultants and all that
Yeah.
we had to do to try to mitigate that new Chromium 6 level that we had to be dealing with. But anyway, so we'll be bringing that to the board in the next few meetings. Sean and I are working on putting that together. He's going to do an update for the board on where we were, where we're at, and we'll show the numbers and all of that. And then the board needs to approve, look at where we're at and because a couple of things maybe we're going to recommend that we change. There was some possibility of water rights purchases, and I think we've determined that maybe that there might be a better option for us with using that fund for something different for that project. So we'll be talking to the full board about it. And looking at, because we collect basically about $800,000 to $900,000 a year, closer to 900, from our the surcharge, and but we've spent more than we've collected so far,
Well, yeah,
and
because,
then we still got stuff to do.
yeah.
So that money comes out of,
Actually, with this well, whatever the cost of the well is in the hookup, that's probably the majority of the expenses for it.
well, there were $3 million worth of other things in the last CIP schedule.
Yeah, we have to look at that
Right.
because,
So we need to bring that back.
yeah.
And, but still, we haven't collected enough in the surcharge to cover that yet. So basically, our reserves are funding that.
Yeah, we're paying for
And
what
each year
will be
when we-
collected.
As we collect it, we're paying it back,
To
but
generate it,
yeah,
yeah.
it's still something we're basically loaning ourselves as we're paying
Right.
for this stuff. And
Right.
we talked about maybe collecting a little bit more before we start spending the rest of it as, doing the remaining projects, I guess.
Yeah, well, the well was critical because we needed the water.
Absolutely.
So,
And all of it was kind of critical because we were on a time schedule with getting that stuff in place in a timely manner because of everything that was going on with the state.
and we'll test the well. I'm sure it will be low, it will be below the 10, but we don't know for sure until we test it and put it online, so.
Sounds good. And then Sean's going to give a full update on those projects and where we're at another
Yes.
board meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, and he'll be giving you an update on, the well before then,
All right.
as part of engineering reports and things like that, so.
Thank you.
So that kind of gives you a little outline of where we're at with this. So the next step would be, did you want to talk any more about the budget at hand, David?
Any highlights that you want to emphasize?
I think we circled around a bunch of things. Covered it.
Less organized than you probably had it, but we end up covering a lot when we jabber, so.
So we're going to be adjusting that one line item overtime? Was there
Well,
anything else?
at least bring, I would ask that staff brings to the
Workshop?
to the workshop a hard look at it.
I would agree with that. We can do that, yes.
So
Do
we
we
can
have
come up with a number and maybe
alter it, what's in here before the workshop. If Sean can make some recommendations on changing that, but if he doesn't feel comfortable with that, he can explain it.
And then we can decide whether we cut it or not.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's been a little easier the last couple of years. This is a little more difficult.
Yeah.
This is more difficult because, I mean, it's again, it's shocking to see how much everything is costing us now. And, staff is just diligent about getting quotes and getting the lowest possible prices on everything. And most of the stuff that's impacting us is stuff that's not controllable. We have no control over the cost of gas. We have no control over the cost of medicine.
Whatever it is.
And those types of things, I mean, Kim shops for the insurances, but all of the insurances are going up. And honestly, I'll be surprised if we get a lower rate somewhere else because SCRMA has been pretty good.
Insurance companies are fleeing California.
Yeah.
It's, you're having less options, I bet. You see.
Well, it's not only that, but, the state passed all sorts of new OSHA requirements for COVID, which included this whole insurance administration nightmare that all the insurance companies had to take on regarding us reporting COVID cases to insurance and dealing with it through OSHA, which that's never happened before. And so they had to build whole new departments for that to happen.
And we have to pay for it.
And we have to pay for it.
I wonder if that'll be going away now.
Eventually. Waiting for the guidance to get updated. They just ended the state of emergency in California. Federally, it's expected May.
Yeah, it hasn't yet, but they're talking about May.
Maybe in coming years it'll help our costs, but.
Yeah, and so as of right now, we're still supposed to be reporting COVID to our insurance company.
Right. So there's the budget.
We need to look at the capital expenditure budget,
Yep.
which is part of what we were somewhat talking about. These were the things that were in the 10-year plan that the full board looked at.
So you want to go over that then?
Yes, please.
Okay, so in the capital expense budget, page number 9, all these items were on the 10-year plan. So we have the $250,000 for the chromium 6 mitigation. I think that's for well 12. $8 million for the site development, engineering, construction of the Civic Center. $700,000 for the final phase of the meter replacement program. Yeah, we're trying to get that. As she said, a lot of it by this fiscal year, so that just leaves about $700,000 for next budget year, and that should be all done. A big relief. $4,665,000 for the Phelan Park expansion, and potential solid waste projects of $35,000. We have 2 vehicle purchases, one in parks, one in solid waste, for $130,000. For total capital purchases of $13,780,000, which we saw in the budget that $65,000 of that falls on the enterprise, and then the $65,000 for the solid waste truck and the $35,000 make up $100,000 for the government side. And then we just recently got the $6 million loan to fund the $8 million of the Civic Center, along with and the remaining portion is the $2 million from a grant. And the $4,665,000 for the future park is coming from existing park funds, loans, and grants.
Yeah, as far as the grant goes, we got the grant from that Kim got that for us. Thank you very much, Kim. From the federal. It's not a grant.
Well, it's a grant. It's just, it's set aside for us. So I still had to complete the whole grant process after the fact. And that's coming through FEMA for a portion of the building.
That's because of the CERT, right?
Yeah, because we're going to dedicate a portion of our building for use during emergency situations. So it can pay for, I believe, 25% of that building.
That's really awesome. That is secure. It's ours now. I mean, we had it in our bank account, but.
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
go through disbursement.
we can put it down.
Yeah, I did all that paperwork last week. So yes.
That was an awesome job in getting that for us. That's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. That's a big one.
So
So the loan was 6, right? And then that, and that's pretty much the cost.
And then the remainder of it is being paid for with government funds for their kind of share of it. So it's almost 11 million altogether.
Mm-hmm.
looks good.
Good.
And your funds attached, so where those numbers came from.
Under item 1 for the storage tank for 6A, we actually put in for 2 million, so we'll update that. Doesn't affect this budget year, it's next budget year, but.
Yeah, it's the following year.
And then it's 700.
So we just have the design and studies for it at 100,000.
Yeah, the reason for that is we will need to break ground and get that constructed by year end of 2024, so it'll be
Yeah,
halfway through that budget year.
You're gonna have to do some pad work there.
Ready to get moving.
Your replacement and a truck. Repair and maintenance.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think this all looks good. I didn't have any. Gone over this several times.
Yeah, and the repair and maintenance section, the yellow highlight is just the things we had to take out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't, we went through that, I think,
Yeah,
just last.
take out or reduce.
Yep, move. Huh?
So, yeah, we kick the can down.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, you know, we've done a lot. Hey, just putting new meters in is a lot, so some stuff has to go on.
But
So-
next year it's gonna be part of our budget again, so.
Sorry, I don't mean to be the microphone.
The microphone.
All
All right,
Well, somebody has to.
so the last sheet is the schedule of events.
Well, before that, the next item on the agenda is the budget resolution, budget policy.
Yeah, I provided a handout, and that's available also on our website if you're following along.
Okay, number 5, the policy modification, that's this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So there were no significant modifications to this policy. This is primarily formatting. We did spell out a couple acronyms and change one title, which were the significant changes. So if the committee's okay with this, we'll just take this to the board as a consent item. And of course, if you have
Not
any.
redlined, huh?
No, because it was just board of directors was spelled out and Lori's title was changed.
That's it?
Yeah.
It was addressed to my specific title and it needed to say, it says finance staff now instead, so it's a little more general.
That's fine. I'm good with it.
Okay, so this will be a consent item at the next regular meeting.
All
All right, well, so the schedule of events is remaining the same here? There's no changes to that?
Well, possibly, depending on how the next meeting goes. Does this include the changes we were talking about? Kim?
No, it doesn't yet. They're still preliminary. We are considering moving the budget hearing up to the end of May or the beginning of May. So possibly the first regular meeting in May. But if we change it, of course, we will issue notice accordingly. So website, press
Move
release.
it to May.
Yes.
If the board workshop that we have, when is it, May 5th? April 5th?
April 5th.
April 5th, if that's the last one.
Yeah, if there's nothing significant that needs to be changed at that meeting, after that meeting, we can move forward with bumping it up a little bit, because there's some other things that are going to be on the agenda that we don't want to steal our thunder. Just kidding.
And that gives finance plenty of time to put everything together and be ready to go.
Yes. Right, David? That's the goal.
Right.
Is the goal. That's
Okay,
If we can manage to do that, we'll be bumping it up. And if something happens where we can't, we'll just deal with it. Right?
Yeah, so potentially it might be moved to May 10th, but if that's not feasible, it'll stay as is.
As is for now, and maybe change.
Okay.
okay.
So
the next item, the next schedule is April 5th. And
Yeah.
that will go from there.
Right. And then if there's any changes at that budget, we can bring the final draft review back to
Okay.
Okay,
another finance committee.
right.
Otherwise, we'll move forward with putting it into the final budget document, which is, all of the written dissertations and
The entries and everything else.
all the
pretty graphs and
graphs and tables and
Pie charts.
charts and all that fun stuff. Yes.
Edison increase, gas increase.
Well, no, that'll be at
That'll be at the workshop.
Yes, those will be at the workshop.
And that would be
For April 5th.
part of the action items.
Yep, noted.
All right.
All right, is there any, do you have any other comments about
Nope, I think we went
this monstrosity?
all the way there.
Okay.
Okay. Prior meeting action items,
There were none?
and so the current one is going to, in the budget workshop, have some,
We'll have a
Some exhibits.
presentation,
Okay.
okay,
some cost increases over the past 5 years, and then we'll have a budget policy to the board.
Right.
right,
Okay.
okay. So it says the next meeting is the 18th, and that's on here, yes, okay.
The next finance committee is scheduled for
For April 18th.
actually, we have that no matter what, because, it's going to be our regular finance committee.
Right, and that will finalize, hopefully finalize the maybe finalize the
If there's
budget draft
anything, if
anyway.
there's anything that needs to be reviewed at that
Yeah.
point, we can bring that to that
Okay.
meeting as well.
So that'll be our next meeting, April 18th. Anything else?
With
With that, we will be adjourned at 5:29.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.